Well, hey, and welcome back to my quest for a public land open young. I sure hope you've been enjoying the journey so far. You know, last year, it was kind of off for me. I had a lot of stuff going on over the summer, work obligations and the like, and I didn't have a lot of time to get out and scout. Nevertheless, I did find several good buck patterns out here on these public areas, and I laid eyes on a few 2.5-year-olds. Now this summer I am out here pulling out all the stops to get this done. I'm enduring all that nasty heat we had July and August, and I'm looking for sign that those big deer made it through last season, and I'm setting up some great ambush points. Now let's start out this episode with a great public land hunting tip. This will work for doe as well as buck. If you find a good creek crossing, like this one here behind me, and there's track in it that you want to hunt, depart the area and wait for a good heavy summer thunderstorm to come through with drenching rain. And then return here several days later, and then again several days after that, to see if the tracks are still being left behind. And you can also get an idea of how frequently the deer are using this crossing. Now, track itself will give you valuable clues as to what animals are leaving those behind and using any given trail. During the summer, does are traveling with their young in small groups. So if you come across a trail leading into a feeding field that's littered with average sized track and very teeny small tracks, you can bet that was a maternal group of does using that particular trail. What I'm looking for are oversized, large tracks, either a few together or even by itself. This tells me I'm hunting a bachelor herd of bucks, or perhaps even an old loner buck traveling by himself. What I'll do is I'll follow these tracks down the trails and find where they lead and try to take an educated guess at where that particular animal or group of animals is bedding and where they're feeding. Now when those big tracks lead out into a food source like this large bean field behind me here, that's ideal. I'll set up downwind of this field with a pair of binoculars as it starts to get dark and try to catch a glimpse of the animal that's leaving that big track behind. Now keep in mind that these big deer been out here a few years, and when the season opens, they're not going to be making themselves visible during daylight hours for very long. Usually it's just a week or so, and then they're gone. So what you want to do is learn to identify trees on your hunting area as well. An obvious choice would be a stand of oaks along the trail from the bedding area, where the deer might emerge and feed on his way to the field just before it gets dark. But don't overlook isolated drops of persimmons like these here. Now if your season opens early enough, another great option would be a grove of pawpaws. They produce these huge fruit. Now they can be kind of hard to pick out because they look almost exactly like hickory trees, but they are an understory tree, softwood, and they tend to grow back in thicker cover and stay smaller. And when they start dropping in September, every deer on their way out of that thicker cover on the way to the feeding field will swing through to pick up the fresh fruit that's fallen since their last visit. Now I think I may have mentioned in a previous video that I don't like to penetrate the thicker areas where I think the deer bed, with the exception of right after the season has closed in the winter. The bigger deer can be visible in the summer months as bachelor groups, but once the season opens, they can disappear seemingly overnight. And I certainly don't want to be responsible for the deer becoming nocturnal on my pre-season scouting trips. Nevertheless, when I cut a nice sized track, I do want to investigate and try to get an idea of where that track is leading to, what bedding cover that particular animal uses. Now for these more invasive scouting trips, you want to prepare just like you would for a regular hunt, with your scent-free soaps, your scent-killing sprays, and your rubber boots. It also doesn't hurt if you do it right before a rainstorm or even in a light rain. That deer is going to know you have been there, and the rain will go a long ways towards cutting the scent you leave behind in the woods. And leaving as little scent as possible is exactly what you're going to want to do, because the first place that buck's going to show up in the evening is not on the edge of that bean field where you saw him in July, but rather on a secluded food source as close as you dare get to the thick cover he's bedding in. I certainly enjoy my time in the trees. The sightings of doe and small bucks make the time pass quickly. My second hunt of the 2012 season began not much differently from my others, with does pouring from the cover onto a secluded oak drop. However, as the evening progressed, I noticed one of the does had her attention fixed firmly on something in the brush. I hadn't realized that buck had walked behind those leaves before I took my shot. I was concentrating on getting the pin dialed in. But I set up on this little oak grove here. It's a real thick edge of a swamp, and there's a white oak grove growing right on the edge of it. And I hadn't even finished setting up, and I was covered up in does feeding. I couldn't get a shot at them. I was thinking about taking one of them just to get the first deer of the year out of the way, but I couldn't get a shot. They were nervous, and they moved off, and that 8-point came out, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know if he'll make Pope and Young, but that's the honest to God best buck I've seen on this particular public area in 4 or 5 years, and I couldn't turn that dead broadside down at 22 yards. Man, I'm gonna be... Oh, look, right there. Well, here he is. I don't know that it'll do Pope and Young, but you know, at this point it doesn't matter. It's a real nice 8-point for this piece of public property. I got in here about 5:30 and I had does coming in before I'd even finished getting set up, and they kind of got nervous and left, and I was doing a little cutaway shooting with my video camera. I looked over and I see antlers coming down through the trees, and you know what, I just couldn't turn him down. It doesn't matter what the tape will end up saying. He's a real nice buck for this particular tract of public land, and I was starting to panic. I still haven't found my arrow or a drop of blood. I can't explain that. It looks like it was a right good hit, maybe just a little bit high, but I mean, I punched them where I wanted to. So I guess I'm looking for a couple does now. If I can shoot 2 does, I can continue to buck hunt on a bonus tag. And that's exactly what I want to do. Continue my quest for public land Pope and Young during this year's rut. We'll see you again soon. Be sure to visit us on the web and like us on Facebook for instant notification when new videos in this series air.